You click on the title, "What is dark energy?" and already, before the first word reaches you, a quiet unease stirs. The phrase itself feels like an unfinished thought, dark energy. Two words joined together like an unanswered question, like a locked door you're not sure you want to open. You can almost feel the weight of the mystery behind them. You lean back, close your eyes, and let the question stretch across your mind. Energy, that's familiar. The heat of the sun, the crackle of fire, the slow burn of food keeping you alive. But dark energy, that feels different. It feels like something hidden, invisible, perhaps even forbidden. The kind of thing whispered about in lecture halls or scribbled on blackboards late at night when certainty has already gone home to sleep. And yet here it is, bold and casual, waiting for you to ask, what exactly is this thing? Why do scientists talk about it with such seriousness, as though it quietly rules the universe? Why does it matter if you'll never touch it, never see it, never feel it on your skin? You can picture the cosmos as you've always imagined it. Galaxies swirling like fireflies in the night, stars scattered like sparks across a dark field, the universe expanding in every direction endlessly. But then the thought cuts in, sharp and unsettling, expanding into what? And why faster and faster, as if some hidden hand were pushing outward? That hidden hand, that is where dark energy enters the story. The name doesn't help you much. It sounds more like a placeholder than an explanation, like calling silence dark sound or calling ignorance dark knowledge. You can almost hear the honesty in it. We don't know what it is, only that it exists, only that it leaves fingerprints we can't ignore. And already you begin to sense the unease at the heart of modern cosmology. Most of the universe, most of what is made of something we cannot see, cannot define, cannot even describe in familiar terms. Imagine standing on a beach looking at the ocean and realizing that the waves, the foam, the spray, even the water itself, that's not the ocean at all. It's just the surface. The real ocean is invisible, hidden, unfathomable, and all you've ever seen is its shadow. Dark energy, it is not a thing we can bottle or measure with a sensor in the lab. It does not show itself like a particle or a beam of light. It reveals itself only through the behavior of the universe itself, like a ghost whose presence is known not by its body, but by the way the curtains sway when no wind is blowing. And that is where the questions flood in. Why is the universe not slowing down in its expansion as gravity would demand? Why does it race outward, accelerating as though driven by something repulsive? Something alien to our intuition of how the cosmos should behave. What is this energy that seems to lurk in the very fabric of space itself, invisible yet all-encompassing? You let the thought linger. If dark energy is real, then it is not far away. It is not tucked in some distant galaxy or buried beneath exotic physics experiments. It is here, between the stars, between you and the screen in front of you, between the atoms in your body. It is stitched into the void itself, saturating the nothingness with an unseen influence. And this is where the discomfort deepens. Because you thought the universe was a place of matter and light, of particles and forces you could at least name, even if you didn't fully understand them. But suddenly here comes this concept, this dark energy, telling you that the rules you trusted are incomplete, that what you thought was solid ground is only a thin layer floating on an abyss. And the abyss is vast. Dark energy makes up nearly 70% of the universe. 70%, think about that. Everything you have ever seen, every planet, every galaxy, every star, every atom, that is the minority. That is the fringe. The main story, the dominant ingredient, is this silent, invisible presence we barely comprehend. So you sit there, staring at the thought, like someone realizing their own house is built on hollow ground. You wonder, is the universe stranger than I can imagine? Or is it simply reminding me that imagination itself has limits? Dark energy, what is it? A question both too simple and impossibly large. Tonight you will drift with it, lean into the mystery, and see how far the question takes you. You were taught, perhaps even without noticing, that the universe should behave like a sensible machine, that if you set it in motion it would obey the rules. Throw a ball and it arcs, slows, falls back down. Fire a rocket and gravity still claws at it, always pulling back. Light a candle and it burns itself out, fuel exhausted, energy transformed. By this intuition, the universe should also obey. The galaxies, scattered since the Big Bang, should be slowing down, tugged by the combined gravity of everything else. Like embers thrown from a fire, they should blaze outward and then hesitate, pulled back toward the center by the sheer weight of everything that exists. That's how the story was expected to go. That's what astronomers thought for most of the 20th century, that cosmic expansion born in the Big Bang would gradually be slowed by gravity's patient grip. Maybe it would slow just enough to coast forever, galaxies inching apart until they faded from view. Or maybe it would slow so much that one day the expansion would halt, reverse, and everything would collapse back into a final, crushing implosion, the Big Crunch. Either way, expansion should not speed up, not according to intuition, not according to the neat logic of falling apples and orbiting moons. But when you look at the data, the faint light from distant supernovae, those colossal explosions that mark the deaths of stars, you find something no one expected. The supernovae are dimmer than they should be, not because they are weaker, but because they are farther away than they should be if expansion were steady. That faintness tells a story. The universe has been expanding faster and faster, galaxies racing away not as if pulled back by gravity, but pushed by something else entirely. It's like running up a hill and suddenly realizing you're accelerating, that the slope has tilted without you noticing, that an invisible escalator is carrying you faster than your legs alone could manage. The universe is not slowing down. It is rushing outward with growing speed. And here your intuition breaks, because what could possibly cause space itself to expand more rapidly over time? What kind of force behaves that way, growing stronger as the universe grows larger? You reach for metaphors because that's all the mind can do. You imagine a balloon, air filling it. But no, that analogy is too neat. A balloon has edges, a center, a hand pushing the air in. The universe has no edge, no outside to inflate into. Expansion is not galaxies rushing through space like pebbles in an explosion. Expansion is space itself stretching, carrying galaxies with it like dots painted on the balloon's surface. And yet, even that balloon analogy collapses, because with the universe, there is no hand, no pump, no air. The fabric of space simply expands. And worse, it accelerates. This is the moment when your inner compass spins. You want to lean on gravity, it should slow things down. You want to lean on mass, it should pull things inward. But something else, something ungraspable, is doing the opposite. Instead of pulling together, it pushes apart. Instead of weakening with distance, it strengthens as the universe grows. This is the broken intuition, that the universe, which should be governed by restraint, is instead governed by a mysterious acceleration. The cosmos is not a ball thrown into the sky, slowing until it falls back. It is a ball that rises faster and faster the farther it goes, defying every instinct about how motion and energy should work. And you can feel the strangeness of it pressing on your chest. Imagine if you leapt into the air and instead of falling, you found yourself rising faster and faster into the sky, pulled by something you couldn't name, unable to stop it. That is what the galaxies are doing. That is what the universe is doing. It unsettles you because it feels like a betrayal of the narrative you trusted. The story of physics was supposed to be about clarity, about equations that describe the dance of planets and the fall of stones. But suddenly there is a presence written into the equations, a term that must exist but cannot be explained. A repulsive pressure, a hidden energy. This is where Einstein comes back into the story like a ghostly reminder. In his equations of general relativity, he once inserted a term, the cosmological constant, to keep the universe static. At the time, the prevailing belief was that the cosmos was eternal, unchanging on the largest scales. Einstein's equations predicted otherwise. They suggested the universe should expand or contract. And to correct this mistake, he introduced a fudge factor, a constant that balanced expansion and contraction to hold the universe in steady equilibrium. Years later, when Hubble's observations revealed that the universe was in fact expanding, Einstein abandoned the constant, calling it his greatest blunder. But history has a dark sense of humor, because when astronomers discovered cosmic acceleration in the late 1990s, the cosmological constant returned from the grave, not as a blunder but as the simplest explanation. Space itself, it seemed, was filled with an energy that did not dilute as the universe expanded. Instead, it remained constant per unit of volume, meaning the more space there was, the more of this energy existed. Expansion fed itself. Dark energy. It sounds almost poetic, doesn't it? A blunder resurrected. A mistake that wasn't a mistake after all, but a glimpse of something deeper. And yet the name still hides more than it reveals, because even now you don't know what it is. You know what it does, you know how it shapes the universe, but you cannot pin it down. It is not like matter which you can weigh or light which you can see. It is more like a pressure in the fabric of reality itself, a property of nothingness, a fingerprint left by the void. And as you sit with this, another thought creeps in. If most of the universe is made of this, if dark energy is everywhere, relentless, constant, then what does that say about the role of matter, of stars, of galaxies, of you? Are you just a detail, a fleeting structure caught in the tide of something far larger, far stranger? It is not a comfortable thought, but it is the thought that brings you closer to the truth of what scientists mean when they say dark energy. It is the recognition that the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, but stranger than we can imagine. And yet here you are, asking anyone. You pause, letting the idea settle, but the unease lingers. Perhaps you think this could all be some mistake. Maybe the instruments were wrong. Maybe those faint supernovae flickering at the edge of observation are misleading us. It would be easier to believe in an error than in a force that tears at the very fabric of space. But the universe rarely lets us off so easily. The evidence does not stand alone in one experiment or one observation. It layers piece by piece like a slow tide rising, undeniable in its steady push. You can doubt a single wave, but not the ocean that delivers it. The first wave is the supernovae, the candles of the cosmos. Astronomers call them standard candles, not because they burn in wax, but because they burn with predictable brightness. Type Ia supernovae are the explosions of dying stars in binary systems, white dwarfs fed past their limit by a companion until they collapse in fire. They shine with near-uniform brilliance, so by measuring their apparent brightness, you can measure their distance. When astronomers used these cosmic candles to map distant galaxies, they expected to see signs of slowing expansion. Instead, they saw faintness, too much faintness. The supernovae were farther than they should have been. That faint glow was a message written across billions of years. The universe had been accelerating all along. But that was just the beginning. Another wave of evidence comes from the oldest light in existence, the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang. This light is not like the twinkling of stars. It is a faint, uniform glow stretched into microwaves by billions of years of expansion, washing over us from every direction. It is the fossil record of the universe, a snapshot of when the cosmos was just 380,000 years old. And in that snapshot, there are ripples, tiny variations in temperature, frozen imprints of sound waves that rippled through the early plasma of matter and radiation. These ripples are delicate, precise, and they carry within them the entire recipe of the cosmos. How much matter, how much radiation, how much dark matter, how much dark energy. When scientists measured the scale of those ripples with satellites like WMAP and Planck, they saw a clear pattern. The geometry of the universe is nearly flat. That flatness requires a certain total energy density. But when you add up all the matter, both visible and dark, you fall short. Something else must make up the difference. That something else is not just filler. It matches exactly the repulsive energy driving cosmic acceleration. And so, the microwave background whispers the same secret as the supernovae. Dark energy is real. A third wave comes from the scaffolding of galaxies themselves, the large-scale structure of the universe. Imagine stepping back so far that galaxies are no longer individual points, but part of a grand cosmic web. Filaments stretching across unimaginable distances, clusters knotting together at the intersections, voids yawning like dark caverns between them. The shape of that web, its distribution, its clustering is not random. It is a fossil of the universe's history. Gravity pulls matter together, yes, but expansion pulls it apart. The tug-of-war between the two writes itself into the spacing of galaxies. When astronomers map these structures, they see a rhythm, an echo called baryon acoustic oscillations, faint imprints of sound waves from the early universe stretched across hundreds of millions of light years. The scale of those echoes depends on the expansion history of the universe. And once again, when measured, they reveal acceleration. Three independent witnesses, three different languages of the cosmos, supernovae, microwave light, galactic webs, all telling the same story. And as though that weren't enough, the evidence extends even further. Look at galaxy clusters, the largest bound structures in the universe. Their abundance, their growth over cosmic time is suppressed by dark energy. Gravity should be building them faster, pulling them tighter. But something opposes it, something that slows their formation. Look at gravitational lensing, the bending of light by mass. By mapping distortions in the shapes of galaxies, you can measure how matter clusters across time. Again, you see the telltale signature of accelerated expansion woven into the growth of cosmic structures. It becomes almost overwhelming, like a chorus of voices all repeating the same phrase. The universe is not what you thought. And so you sit with it. You cannot escape it by doubting one dataset because another waits around the corner. You cannot dismiss it as an error because too many independent lines converge on the same conclusion. Dark energy is not a whisper. It is a roar beneath the surface of reality. But evidence is not only about numbers. It is about the way your mind must bend to accommodate them. You realize you are being asked to accept something profoundly counterintuitive, that empty space itself is not empty, that the vacuum carries energy, constant and relentless, that nothingness is not passive but active, swelling the cosmos outward with invisible pressure. It is strange to even call it energy. The word conjures images of motion, heat, fuel, electricity crackling in wires. But dark energy is not like that. It does not flow or spark or burn. It simply is woven into the vacuum, exerting a pressure that drives expansion. It is an energy you cannot use, cannot harness, cannot even feel. except in the fact that galaxies rush away from you faster with every passing moment. And here your thoughts drift toward scale. You sit in your room breathing, listening, your heart pumping blood, your neurons firing. To you, the cosmos feels remote, abstract, like a story about someone else's world. But the truth presses in. Dark energy is not far away. It is here, between your fingertips and the air they press against. It is stitched into the emptiness between atoms. It is so faint on human scales that you will never notice it, never measure it in your kitchen, never detect it in a laboratory vial. Yet stretched across the universe, across billions of light years, it dominates everything. Its presence is only revealed by scale so vast it dwarfs imagination. And that is perhaps the strangest part of all, that the universe hides its greatest truths not in the tiny, but in the infinite, not in the laboratory, but in the stars. To find dark energy, you had to measure the cosmos itself, had to treat the universe as an experiment, had to let the sky be your data. So here you are, with a growing stack of evidence piled at your feet, the supernovae dimmer than expected, the microwave background whispering of flatness, the cosmic web stretched with echoes of acceleration, clusters growing slower than they should, lenses bending light in patterns that reveal the same relentless truth. Dark energy is not an accident of measurement. It is not a blip in the data. It is a feature of reality, inescapable, undeniable. And yet, knowing it exists is not the same as knowing what it is. You sit back, eyes closed, feeling the weight of this realization. The evidence is overwhelming, but the explanation is absent. You are left with a word, a placeholder, dark energy. The name is more confession than description. It says only, we do not know, we see its effects, but its nature eludes us. And that, perhaps more than the mystery itself, is what unsettles you. To live in a universe where 70% of everything is an enigma, and where the best minds can only gesture toward it with vague metaphors and hesitant constants. Evidence, yes, but not understanding. The gap between the two is where your imagination begins to ache. You've been carried by the evidence, wave after wave, until the case for dark energy feels overwhelming. Supernovae, cosmic background radiation, the clustering of galaxies, all singing in unison. And yet a part of you resists, not because you want to deny, but because the conclusion feels too strange, too vast, too ungraspable. It is here that doubt becomes a kind of companion. After all, science is not built on certainty. It is built on questioning, even questioning the questions. If dark energy feels unearthly, alien, perhaps that is because the interpretation itself has gaps. So you begin to listen to the dissenting voices. One voice says, perhaps the supernovae are misleading us. Maybe they aren't perfect candles after all. What if the distant explosions we use as mile markers are subtly different from the nearby ones? Perhaps the chemistry of the early universe shaped stars in ways we do not fully understand. If those explosions burned dimmer or brighter than assumed, then the distance estimates could be skewed, and the illusion of acceleration might simply be a trick of calibration. Another voice says, perhaps the universe is not uniform. We assume it is because the cosmic background looks smooth, and because on the largest scales galaxies form webs that seem evenly distributed. But what if by chance we live inside an immense underdense region, a cosmic void? If the space around us has less matter than average, then expansion might look like it's accelerating, when in truth it is only our peculiar vantage point distorting the picture. It is tempting. You imagine standing in a hollowed-out cavern within the cosmic web, galaxies rushing outward not because the universe accelerates, but because the local density is low. You don't need a new energy to explain it, only geography. Still another voice asks, what if gravity itself is different than we think? We assume Einstein's general relativity is the final word on how space and time bend and weave. But what if, on the largest scales, gravity behaves differently than on the scales of planets and stars? If so, perhaps the equations need modification, and the illusion of dark energy is really the fingerprint of a deeper, corrected law of gravity. You think of Newton, his neat equations describing planets and falling apples. For centuries, his framework seemed complete, but then came anomalies, Mercury's orbit precessing, starlight bending near the sun. General relativity absorbed those puzzles, expanding the map of truth. Perhaps now at the edge of cosmology, Einstein's framework too is only a stepping stone. Perhaps dark energy is a placeholder for our ignorance of gravity's true nature. And yet another voice whispers, what if quantum mechanics is involved? After all, the vacuum is not empty, not in the language of quantum fields. It seethes with fluctuations, particles popping in and out of existence, a froth of energy at the smallest scales. Maybe dark energy is nothing more than that, the vacuum energy predicted by quantum theory. But when you calculate it, the numbers go wrong. Not wrong by a factor of 10 or 100, wrong by a factor of 10, 120, the worst prediction in the history of physics. If the vacuum energy were truly that large, the universe would have torn itself apart long before stars or galaxies could form. And yet here you are, listening, breathing, existing. So the voices multiply. Some suggesting dim stars, some suggesting cosmic voids, some suggesting broken gravity, some suggesting quantum ghosts. Each alternative gives you a way out, a way to resist the unsettling idea that 70% of the universe is a nameless energy pressing outward on the fabric of space. But doubt alone is not enough. Each alternative has its cracks. The supernovae, for example, if their light curves were misleading, then other evidence should diverge, but it doesn't. The cosmic microwave background still speaks of acceleration. The galaxy clusters still grow too slowly. The cosmic web still whispers the same story. The candles may flicker, but the room they illuminate is consistent. The cosmic void idea collapses under its own scale. For us to be inside such a massive underdensity, the void would have to stretch across billions of light years, a special place in an otherwise uniform cosmos. And if there is one principle cosmology holds sacred, it is this: we are not special, we are not at the center, we are not chosen. The void explanation risks breaking that principle. Gravity, elegant though it sounds, has its own burdens. Gravity is not just about orbits. It also governs how structures grow, how light bends, how galaxies cluster. Every new tweak to Einstein's equations must explain not just acceleration, but all those other observations too. And so far, every alternative theory strains under the weight of evidence that general relativity still matches. And quantum vacuum energy, here perhaps the strangest countercase of all. Because while the numbers are catastrophic, the idea remains haunting. What if dark energy really is just the vacuum's whisper, but for reasons unknown it balances on a knife's edge, cancelling almost perfectly but leaving just a trace? Why so small and yet not zero? Why this delicate, cosmic tuning that allows life, galaxies, stars? You realize, as you follow each voice, that skepticism does not free you from the puzzle. It only reshapes the puzzle into different forms. If dark energy is not real, then something equally strange must be hiding in its place. This is where doubt itself becomes awe. Because whether the answer is a miscalibrated star, a cosmic void, a broken law of gravity, or a delicate balancing act of quantum foam, each one implies a universe stranger than your first intuition allowed. And you notice quietly how this shifts the meaning of the question. What is dark energy? Was never only about an invisible force. It was about your expectation that the universe would behave sensibly, that its laws would be neat, its story clear. The counter cases remind you that maybe the strangeness is unavoidable, no matter what form it takes. So you sit with the uncertainty. The voices swirl, sometimes contradicting, sometimes harmonizing, each carrying a fragment of truth. None close the loop, none dissolve the mystery. And you wonder if perhaps this is the true character of cosmology, not to deliver answers neatly wrapped, but to illuminate how vast the unknown really is. To make you feel small, yes, but also strangely free. Because if even the universe itself is unsolved, then perhaps your own uncertainties, your own unanswered questions are not failures. They are echoes of the same cosmic story. You lean back, let your breathing slow, and feel the scale of it. A universe where even the alternatives to mystery are mysterious. A universe where doubt itself is a kind of evidence. And in this quiet you can almost hear it, the low hum of expansion, the gentle roar of space swelling, the silence of a question too large for any one answer. You've heard the voices of evidence, you've entertained the whispers of doubt. Both sit with you now side by side like companions you did not invite but cannot send away. On one side the data, relentless and precise, pointing to an accelerating universe. On the other, the counter cases, skeptical, resistant, trying to peel away the layers of assumption. And yet neither side dissolves the mystery. This is the moment when you must step back, not to choose, but to see the whole picture. Imagine a painting viewed too closely, your nose almost against the canvas. At that distance you see only brushstrokes, details, fragments of color. Step back though and the fragments form a landscape, a whole greater than its parts. So too with dark energy. Up close it feels like confusion, competing models, awkward terms. Step back and you see the real theme. The universe is expanding and that expansion is accelerating. And no matter how you slice it, no matter which doubts you cling to, that conclusion remains. And so the synthesis begins here with an acceptance of what cannot be avoided. The universe does not behave as your intuition insists. It accelerates. Something drives that acceleration. Whether you call it dark energy, modified gravity, quantum vacuum, or some yet unnamed phenomenon, the fact remains. But synthesis is not just about naming the phenomenon. It is about reckoning with its meaning. Think again of Einstein's cosmological constant, a term once dismissed as a blunder, now reborn as perhaps the simplest description of what we observe. In this model, dark energy is not a substance, not a field that flows or particles that flit. It is simply a property of space itself. Space does not sit idle, empty and neutral. It has weight. It has tension. Each cubic meter of the vacuum carries a tiny, relentless energy that pushes outward. This explanation is both comforting and unsettling. Comforting because it is mathematically neat, a single constant added to the equations of general relativity. Unsettling because it offers no mechanism, no deeper reason why space should behave this way. It is like writing, because at the end of a sentence without explaining what follows. And yet the cosmological constant does more than just fit the data. It introduces a profound shift in how you think about nothingness. Emptiness is no longer absence. It is active, dynamic, filled with a quiet power that shapes the fate of the cosmos. Nothing is not nothing, nothing is something. Step into that thought for a moment. The vacuum of your room, the quiet air between you and the walls, is not just a void. It is a stage on which dark energy performs invisibly. And though the effect is too faint to measure here, too subtle to disrupt your breath or the furniture around you, it accumulates on cosmic scales. Over billions of years, it bends the trajectory of everything. Over trillions, it may determine the ultimate fate of the universe itself. But the cosmological constant is not the only synthesis. Another possibility lurks, that dark energy is not constant but dynamic, a field that changes over time, slowly evolving as the universe expands. Scientists give it names like quintessence, echoing the ancient notion of a fifth element beyond earth, air, fire, and water. Quintessence imagines dark energy not as a static background, but as a fluid or field rolling down a cosmic landscape, its influence waxing or waning as eons pass. Unlike the constant, which is forever the same, quintessence leaves room for evolution. Perhaps dark energy was weaker in the past. Perhaps it will grow stronger in the future. Perhaps it will one day reverse, pulling everything inward in a final collapse. The thought chills you. A constant dark energy means a predictable destiny, an ever-expanding universe, cooling, fading, drifting apart. Quintessence means uncertainty. The universe could accelerate faster or slow or collapse. Its fate depends not on inevitability, but on the dynamics of a field we do not yet understand. Both possibilities, constant or dynamic, are consistent with much of what we see. Both paint the universe with a sense of incompleteness. And so synthesis at this point is not about closure. It is about living with layered possibilities, each pointing to a cosmos where your intuitions are inadequate, each reminding you that the universe is not obliged to be simple or kind or comprehensible. This is where reflection deepens, because in dark energy you begin to see a mirror of your own existence. The unknown is not out there only, it is here too. In the questions you carry about your life, your choices, your meaning. You expect clarity, you crave neat stories, but more often you are left with uncertainty, with competing voices, with evidence and counter-evidence, with possibilities that cannot be collapsed into a single truth. Dark energy is the cosmos whispering. Mystery is not a flaw, it is the texture of reality. You sit with that whisper and begin to feel the humility it demands. We speak of galaxies, billions of them, spread across distances so vast they strain language itself. We measure the universe's age, its shape, its content, with precision unimaginable to earlier generations. And yet, 70% of it eludes us. What kind of knowledge is that? It is knowledge sharpened by its own ignorance. A reminder that the farther you push, the more questions open up. A reminder that discovery is not a conquest of certainty, but a dance with doubt. This is synthesis, not closure, but coherence. Not an answer, but a way of holding the question without collapsing it. And in that holding, a new kind of wonder emerges. Because if the universe is filled with dark energy, then it is not silent. It is not static. It is restless, dynamic, alive in ways you never imagined. Space itself is not the backdrop, it is the actor. The void is not passive, it is the engine. That thought alone can shift you. You once imagined the universe as a stage where galaxies and stars performed, and emptiness was nothing more than scenery. But now you see that the scenery is the story. The vacuum itself, the dark energy spread across it, is the true driver of cosmic fate. And you are here alive in the middle of it, at the brief moment in cosmic time when the mystery is first being revealed. Billions of years passed before the universe whispered this secret through its supernovae and its ripples in the microwave background. Billions more will pass after you are gone, the expansion stretching galaxies beyond each other's sight until the sky itself grows empty. But right now, in this fleeting moment, you, a fragile being on a small planet, are aware of the vastness, the acceleration, the strangeness of dark energy. You are here to ask. That is the true synthesis. Not just a reconciliation of data, but a reconciliation of self with scale. And as you drift deeper into the thought, a quiet recognition forms. The mystery of dark energy is not separate from you. It is a reminder that to live in this universe is to live in wonder, to walk daily with the unknown, to let the unanswered be not a wound but a gift. So you breathe slowly, letting your body soften, letting your mind stretch outward. The synthesis does not solve, it does not end, but it steadies you in the vastness. Because sometimes, knowing that you do not know is the most honest knowledge of all. You've reached a fragile kind of balance, evidence on one side, doubt on the other, and synthesis stretched taut between them. But balance doesn't last forever. The moment you let yourself linger on the implications, you feel the ground shift beneath your thoughts. Because dark energy is not only about what the universe is, it is about where the universe is going. Destiny, the quiet question hidden in the data. If space itself accelerates, if dark energy truly dominates, then the story of the cosmos is already being written in invisible ink across the fabric of time, and the ending is unlike anything your ancestors could have imagined. Begin with the simplest picture, the cosmological constant, a steady, unchanging pressure woven into the void. If this is the nature of dark energy, then expansion will never slow, never reverse. Galaxies will drift apart faster and faster, their light stretched into invisibility. Over billions of years, the stars will burn out one by one. Black holes will evaporate, their energy fading into the background. The universe will grow colder, emptier, until only darkness and silence remain. This is the heat death. A misleading phrase, really, because it is not heat but its absence that defines it. A final, endless stillness where even motion itself has run out of energy. The universe, stretched by dark energy, will become a graveyard without markers, a silence without memory. You picture it for a moment. Galaxies once blazing with billions of stars now adrift in eternal night, their light too faint ever to be seen, their stories too far apart ever to be shared. If dark energy is constant, then loneliness is not just a feeling, it is the destiny of the cosmos. But the constant is only one possibility. What if dark energy is dynamic? What if quintessence, or something stranger, evolves over time? One path leads to acceleration, growing stronger, more violent. If the pressure of dark energy increases without bound, the expansion will not merely push galaxies apart, it will tear them apart. The stars bound in galaxies unbound. The planets orbiting stars flung free. Even atoms themselves stretched until they unravel, particles drifting apart into nothingness. Cosmologists call it the Big Rip, a universe shredded by its own expansion. Not a heat death, but a violent dispersal, every bond broken by the tyranny of distance. Another path, less catastrophic but equally haunting, is that dark energy could reverse. Imagine it weakening, fading, losing its grip as the universe stretches. In that case, gravity might one day reclaim its dominance. Galaxies would slow their flight, pause, and then fall back inward. The universe would contract, heat up, collapse into a final singularity, the Big Crunch. And if the cycle repeats, if expansion and collapse alternate forever, then the universe becomes a breathing thing, eternally inhaling and exhaling. Each cycle giving birth to galaxies, to stars, perhaps even to beings like you. But if so, memory is never preserved. Each cycle begins fresh, without trace of the last. So the destiny is uncertain. Heat, death, rip, crunch, cycle. Each possibility is written into the unknown nature of dark energy. Each one leads you farther from the comfort of permanence. And yet all of them share a common thread. Nothing lasts forever, not galaxies, not stars, not even atoms. This is where the question pierces deeper. What does it mean to exist in a universe whose ultimate fate is erasure? to live a life that unfolds within a cosmos that itself will one day dissolve. It is easy to feel small here, smaller than you have ever felt. You are not only a speck in space, you are a brief flicker in time, nested within a larger flicker, nested within an eventual silence. Dark energy tells you not just that the cosmos is vast, but that it is mortal. And that mortality, scaled to infinity, humbles you in ways you can hardly name. But humility is not despair. There is a strange freedom in knowing the stage itself will one day vanish. A strange intimacy in realizing that you, right now, are part of the rare window when the universe is alive with light. Think of it, for billions of years, galaxies burned, but no mind was here to witness them. For trillions of years yet to come, galaxies may drift into obscurity with no witness left. And yet you in this fleeting middle are aware. You can see the stars, you can measure their flight, you can wonder at their fate. That awareness makes you part of the story. The cosmos is not merely happening around you. It is happening through you, and you are awake to notice. And so the open loop does not close. It stretches outward just as space itself stretches, inviting you into the unfinished. Perhaps dark energy is constant, perhaps it evolves. Perhaps it is not energy at all, but a hint of deeper physics yet to be named. Whatever the answer, it lies beyond your grasp tonight, and that is the point. Because mystery is not a wall, it is a horizon. The horizon recedes as you walk toward it, always just out of reach. But in that retreat lies the invitation to keep walking, to keep wondering, to keep asking. Dark energy is a horizon written into the fabric of existence. No matter how far you chase it, it will always stretch beyond. And isn't that what keeps you alive in a deeper sense than heartbeat or breath? Not certainty, but wonder. Not closure, but curiosity. You let yourself drift in that thought. The universe accelerating, galaxies fleeing, futures uncertain. And yet here you are, alive in the mystery, listening, holding it in your mind like a stone in your hand. Heavy, unknowable, but real. And as your breathing slows, as your body softens toward rest, you realize the paradox that will carry you into sleep. Dark energy is both terrifying and soothing. Terrifying because it reminds you of endings. Soothing because it reminds you that even endings are part of something larger, something infinite in its mystery. You will not solve it tonight. You will not solve it ever. But you will carry the question with you, the way the universe itself carries the tension in its fabric, pressing outward, always outward. And perhaps that is enough, to live with the question, to let it lull you into silence, to drift into sleep knowing that the same force carrying galaxies apart is carrying your thoughts outward, into the dark, into the unknown. You close your eyes for a moment, trying to steady the vertigo of cosmic futures. Heat, death, big rip, big crunch. The words linger like faint aftertastes, but you sense that your mind needs grounding. You cannot only float in equations, in galaxies rushing away. You need to remember that you are not the first to ask what the universe is, not the first to stare into the dark and wonder what lies behind it. Humans have been here before in their own way. Not with telescopes, not with satellites, but with naked eyes and restless imaginations. Long before dark energy was even a phrase, people stared at the night sky and felt its pull, its question, its pressure against the boundaries of thought. Imagine a desert thousands of years ago. The sand cool beneath you, the horizon open, the stars dazzling in their silence. You lie back as people did, as ancestors did, and you wonder, what holds all this together? What keeps the sky from falling? What force drives the sun across its path? For the Babylonians, the cosmos was a great dome stretched overhead, a structure of order sustained by gods. For the Egyptians, the sky was the goddess Nut, arching over the earth, her body glittering with stars. For the Greeks, the heavens were crystalline spheres, perfect and eternal, each carrying planets and stars in their rotations. In each story, there was always an unseen force, a glue, a will, a principle holding the vastness in balance. They did not call it dark energy, but they felt the same need to explain why the universe is not chaos, why it has form, why it endures. Even the myths of fate echo the modern questions. The Norse spoke of Ragnarök, the final unraveling of the cosmos, fire and ice consuming all. The Hindus spoke of cycles, universes born and destroyed in endless succession, gods inhaling and exhaling creation like breath. These stories were not scientific, but they were not random either. They were the first attempts to reconcile intuition with mystery, to explain how something so vast could one day end. And when you hear them now with modern ears, you feel a strange resonance. For what is the heat, death, if not another kind of Ragnarök, a silent twilight where all things fall still? What is the idea of quintessence, of dark energy shifting over time, if not another echo of cosmic cycles, expansion and contraction, beginnings and endings without finality? You begin to see that humans have always lived with broken intuitions about the sky, always forced to accept that the universe is larger, stranger, more fluid than it seems. And the philosophers, too, wrestled with this. Aristotle believed the heavens were immutable, the stars unchanging. To him, perfection was eternal motion, spheres turning forever, a cosmos without decay. But then comets appeared, stars flared, novae erupted. The sky was not perfect, it was dynamic, restless, alive. Each new observation cracked the old intuition and demanded a new story. Centuries later, Galileo turned his telescope upward and saw moons circling Jupiter, blemishes on the sun, mountains on the moon. The cosmos was not a clean geometric ideal. It was rugged, imperfect, evolving. Each discovery widened the gap between expectation and reality. You begin to recognize a rhythm here. Each age asks, what holds the universe together? Each age answers with the best language it has. And each answer is eventually broken, forced to expand into something stranger. Dark energy is not the first time intuition has failed us. It will not be the last. And yet there is something unique about this moment in history. Unlike the myths, unlike the philosophies we now measure with precision, we do not only imagine the end, we calculate its timescales, its probability. We fit equations to the faint whispers of supernovae, to the ripples of microwave light older than galaxies themselves. And for the first time, humans are not only telling stories about fate, they are testing them. And yet, in doing so, they find themselves back where the ancients stood, staring at a mystery they cannot define, giving it names that are placeholders, metaphors, shadows. Dark energy is no more a true explanation than nut arching over the sky. Both are admissions of ignorance, clothed in the vocabulary of their time. This is not an insult to science, it is its strength. Science names the mystery honestly, refusing to pretend it has answers when it does not. It says, here is a phenomenon undeniable, incomprehensible. We do not know what it is, but we know it is. And that honesty is what binds you across the ages to those desert stargazers, those mythmakers, those philosophers scratching notes by candlelight. The language changes, the instruments change, the scale of knowledge grows, but the essence remains the same: human beings, fragile and finite, staring into an infinite night, asking what drives it, what ends it, what it means. In that sense, dark energy is not only a scientific puzzle, it is a cultural one, a philosophical one, a spiritual one. It forces you to confront the scale of ignorance, the inevitability of endings, the fragility of stories. It makes you part of a lineage not of answers but of questions. And perhaps this is where you find peace. because you do not need to know what dark energy is to feel its presence. You only need to sit beneath the stars as your ancestors did and let the mystery seep into you. You only need to remember that not knowing is not failure, it is connection. Imagine again that desert sky. Imagine the ancient child asking a parent what the stars are, why they shine, why they move. Imagine the parent not knowing but still answering, weaving a story, giving the child something to hold on to. That story may be wrong in detail but right in spirit. It says, you are part of this. You belong here beneath the vastness. And tonight, as you drift towards sleep, you are that child again. You ask, what is dark energy? And the universe answers not with clarity but with presence, with the slow expansion of galaxies, with the faint glow of ancient light, with the hum of mystery that has always been and perhaps always will be. And so the loop remains open. You do not close it with certainty. You carry it with you the way generations before you carried their myths, their philosophies, their fragile guesses. You are not at the end of the story. You are a moment within it. The dark energy waits. The future waits. The silence of heat, death, or the violence of a rip, or the cycle of contraction and birth, all of it waits beyond reach. But right now you are here, breathing, asking, awake to the question. And maybe that is the true gift, not the answer, but the asking itself. You sit with the long memory of humanity, the myths, the philosophies, the stories that tried to hold the sky. But slowly the scene shifts. The desert fades, the campfires burn out, and in their place rise the cold instruments of the modern age. Telescopes of glass and steel, detectors cooled to near absolute zero, observatories perched on mountaintops and orbiting in space. Because though mystery endures, science does not stay still. Each generation inherits the question and sharpens its tools, hoping to carve away ignorance with more precise blades. And with dark energy, the effort has been relentless. Imagine yourself standing beneath the vast dome of a modern observatory. The night is cold, thinner here at high altitude, the air dry to minimize distortion. Above you the dome yawns open and the great eye of a telescope tilts toward the stars. It does not look with wonder, it looks with hunger. Hunger for data, hunger for the faintest photons that have traveled billions of years across expanding space. This is where the pursuit of dark energy takes its most concrete form. In surveys, in experiments, in instruments designed to measure the unmeasurable. Start with the supernova surveys, the same cosmic candles that first revealed acceleration. The High-Z Supernova Search Team, the Supernova Cosmology Project, their names now etched into the history of discovery. Small groups of astronomers scattered across the globe, dedicating nights, years, decades to catching the brief flare of a dying star, measuring its brightness, its spectrum, its redshift. Each supernova is a message written in light. By collecting hundreds, then thousands, astronomers weave a map of cosmic expansion, charting how acceleration has unfolded over time. The faintest supernovae seen in the deepest reaches speak of earlier eras when the universe was younger, when the balance between matter and dark energy was different. Each new detection tightens the constraints, sharpening the shape of the unknown. But supernovae are only one tool. The cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of creation, became the canvas for satellites like WMAP and Planck. These spacecraft floated far from Earth's interference, measuring temperature differences across the sky at a precision of millionths of a degree. What looked to the naked eye like uniform glow revealed itself as a tapestry of ripples, peaks, and troughs, like the surface of an ancient sea frozen in time. From those ripples came revelations, the geometry of space, the age of the universe, the fraction of its contents that are matter, and dark energy. Planck's maps are not just images, they are fingerprints of the cosmos itself, equations made visible, evidence painted across the whole sky. And then there are the galaxy surveys, like the Sloan Digital Sky Survey, the Dark Energy Survey, and the upcoming Vera Rubin Observatory. Imagine cameras with detectors the size of tables, lenses wide enough to swallow whole swathes of sky at once. Night after night, they capture millions of galaxies, charting their positions, their distances, their clustering. From this emerges the great cosmic web, a pattern of filaments and voids whose spacing encodes the expansion history of the universe. Within that web, faint echoes, the baryon acoustic oscillations, act as rulers, stretching across hundreds of millions of light years. By measuring these rulers at different times, scientists track how fast the universe has expanded, how dark energy has pressed outward. And yet even these are not enough. Dark energy is slippery, elusive, always hiding behind the data. To probe it further, new instruments push deeper. The Euclid spacecraft, launched by the European Space Agency, peers into the darkness with precision lenses, mapping billions of galaxies across a third of the sky. Its mission: to measure cosmic acceleration with unprecedented clarity, to test whether dark energy is constant or evolving. The Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, NASA's answer, will follow, scanning vast areas of sky, using both supernovae and weak gravitational lensing to reveal how matter and energy tug at the universe. Each new observatory is like a hand stretched farther into the dark, grasping at something that always seems just beyond reach. But even as the instruments sharpen, the frustration deepens, because dark energy leaves no direct trace. It does not shine, does not scatter, does not interact. It is inferred only through its effect on the whole. Like wind invisible except for the sway of trees, dark energy is known only by the way galaxies move, by the way light stretches, by the way the universe bends. This indirectness gnaws at scientists, because while the evidence is overwhelming, the nature remains obscure. They can measure its density, roughly 70% of the universe. They can measure its effect, a negative pressure accelerating expansion. But they cannot point to it, cannot hold it, cannot describe it in terms of particles or fields with confidence. And so theory struggles alongside observation. On chalkboards and in computer simulations, physicists spin out possibilities. Perhaps dark energy is the cosmological constant, plain, simple, unchanging. Perhaps it is quintessence, a dynamic field that ebbs and flows. Perhaps it is something stranger still, an emergent property of spacetime, a symptom of dimensions beyond those we perceive, a clue that gravity itself requires rewriting. Each theory is tested against the data. Some cut away quickly, others linger, none fully satisfying. It is like sculpting fog. Each gesture hints at shape, but the substance refuses to hold still. And through it all, a strange duality persists. On one hand, progress is real. Measurements sharpen, models narrow, abilities are pruned. On the other hand, the core mystery remains unchanged. We do not know what dark energy is. This is the paradox of modern cosmology. We have reached a point where we can describe the universe with exquisite precision, its age, its contents, its geometry, and yet the majority of it remains fundamentally unknown. We live in what some call the era of precision ignorance. We can measure the ignorance to decimal places, but we cannot erase it. And yet, isn't there something poetic in that? To know that you are alive at a time when the universe itself is whispering its greatest riddle, and you have instruments sensitive enough to hear it, even if you cannot yet translate it. You think of the scientists staring at screens late at night, analyzing faint galaxies, their coffee cold, their eyes tired. You think of the engineers polishing mirrors, aligning detectors, calibrating instruments to chase photons older than Earth. You think of the programmers, the mathematicians, the theorists, all pushing against the same question. It is not just data, it is devotion. A devotion to not turning away, to facing the incomprehensible and asking again and again and again. And in that devotion, perhaps, is the true answer, not to what dark energy is, but to what it means. It means that human beings, fragile and fleeting, refuse to settle for ignorance. It means that even when the answer slips away, the act of pursuit itself becomes meaningful. Dark energy remains dark, but in trying to illuminate it, we illuminate ourselves. And so the story of dark energy is not only about the cosmos. It is about human persistence, human creativity, human willingness to admit ignorance and still reach outward. It is about standing beneath a night sky, now armed with telescopes instead of myths, and refusing to look away. The mystery is vast, the tools are small, and yet somehow they mate in the middle. You've walked among the observatories, felt the weight of telescopes searching the skies, heard the careful language of data. The evidence is overwhelming, but the meaning still evades you. And this is where the imagination of physics stretches itself to breaking point. Because if dark energy is not a simple cosmological constant, if it is not just a quiet hum of space itself, then what else could it be? This is the frontier where theory becomes bolder, stranger, more fragile, where physicists look not just at what the universe does, but at how their own assumptions might fail. Start with the idea of quintessence. Unlike the cosmological constant, which is frozen and unchanging, quintessence imagines dark energy as dynamic, a field rolling through space and time. Picture it like a ball on a slope, not racing but slowly drifting, shaping expansion as it moves. Its influence may grow or shrink depending on the contours of the landscape beneath it. If quintessence is real, then dark energy is not eternal. It may evolve. Perhaps it is strong now but will fade in the future. Perhaps it was weaker before, only recently dominating. Perhaps it will someday reverse, turning expansion into contraction. In this vision, the universe's destiny is not written in stone but in a field still unfolding. The attraction of quintessence is that it seems less arbitrary than a constant. It doesn't just exist without reason, it has motion, history, potential. But its weakness is its vagueness. No one has seen this field. No one knows what drives it. It is a sketch of a possibility, elegant but unanchored. Step further and you find even stranger ideas. Some propose that dark energy is a new kind of fluid, something permeating the cosmos with unusual properties. This phantom energy, as some call it, could not only accelerate expansion but do so with such force that it grows stronger over time, inevitably leading to the Big Rip. Imagine a universe where bonds themselves, gravitational, atomic, cannot resist the swelling of space, where even protons, the building blocks of matter, are eventually torn apart. Others imagine K-essence, a cousin of quintessence, where the field's behavior depends not only on its value but on its rate of change. The mathematics grows more tangled, the implications more bizarre. Still others venture into dimensions beyond the familiar. If the universe has more than 3 dimensions of space, then perhaps dark energy is a symptom of geometry itself. Maybe gravity leaks into extra dimensions, altering how the cosmos expands. In such scenarios, acceleration is not caused by a mysterious energy, but by the hidden shape of reality. What looks like repulsion may be nothing more than the warping of unseen dimensions nudging our universe outward. And if dimensions sound outlandish, consider the holographic principle. In this radical idea, the universe is not three-dimensional at all, but a projection from a lower dimensional boundary. Dark energy in this view might not be an energy in space, but a reflection of deeper rules inscribed on the edge of reality itself. What you perceive as expansion could be a shadow of laws that live outside your space, beyond your perception. Danger still is the possibility that dark energy is not real at all, that the acceleration is an illusion created by our misunderstanding of gravity. General relativity has passed every test on solar system scales, in the orbits of planets, in the bending of light by the sun. But we have never truly tested it on cosmic scales. Perhaps the laws of gravity weaken over vast distances. Perhaps they bend in ways our equations do not capture. If so, then what we call dark energy is merely our own error, mistaking modified gravity for an unknown substance. These modified gravity models are bold because they ask you to consider that Einstein, the icon of modern physics, may not have the final word. Just as Newton was surpassed, so too may relativity give way to a deeper law. Perhaps dark energy is not a ghost, but a mirror showing us the limits of our understanding. And then comes quantum theory, whispering its own strange possibilities. In quantum field theory, the vacuum seethes with energy. Virtual particles appear and vanish, fluctuations ripple through emptiness. In principle, this vacuum energy could explain cosmic acceleration. But the numbers don't add up, they explode, predicting an expansion so vast it would annihilate the universe instantly. And yet here we are. Some physicists wonder, perhaps the vacuum energy is real but finely balanced by unknown mechanisms, cancelling almost perfectly but leaving just a trace. Why that trace? Why now? It feels like cosmic coincidence. A universe tuned with uncanny precision, expansion balanced at the knife edge that allows galaxies, stars, and life. This fine-tuning drives others to the multiverse. If our cosmos is only one of countless universes, each with different values of vacuum energy, then most are sterile, expanding too fast or collapsing too quickly for life. We live in one of the rare universes where the numbers fall just right, not because of design, but because only here can beings like us exist to ask the question. Dark energy in this view is not explained, it is selected. You pause here, letting that thought ripple. A universe not unique, but one bubble among infinite bubbles, each with different laws, different fates. If so, then dark energy is both trivial and profound. Trivial because it is just a random value among many possibilities. Profound because it reminds you that your cosmos, your home, may not be the only stage. And through all these theories, quintessence, phantom energy, extra dimensions, holography, modified gravity, multiverse, the same tension persists. None are proven, all are possible. Each demands you stretch your imagination until it trembles. You begin to sense that dark energy is not just a scientific puzzle, but a kind of test. A test of how far human thought can go. A test of how willing you are to let go of common sense, to embrace landscapes of possibility that strain language itself. And yet, even in their strangeness, these ideas share a humility. They do not claim finality. They admit the provisional, the incomplete. They say, this may be the shape of truth, but we do not yet know. You find something strangely comforting in that humility, because it reminds you that the universe is not a problem to be solved once and for all, but an endless unfolding. Each theory is not the end of mystery, but a new beginning. And so the horizon opens again. Dark energy may be a constant, or a field, or an illusion, or a shadow of dimensions unseen. It may be the breath of a multiverse, or the trembling of quantum foam. It may be none of these, or all of them in ways you cannot yet imagine. The only certainty is that the question remains. And perhaps that is the true gift of dark energy, not the answer, but the widening of thought. the reminder that the universe is stranger than any single story, and that your role is not to finish the book but to keep turning the pages. You let that thought linger like a lantern carried into a cave, the darkness vast, the path unending. A dark energy, the name is not an explanation, it is an invitation. You've entertained theories, sifted through evidence, wandered through ancient myths and modern equations. But all of this remains abstract. It is easy to talk of acceleration when galaxies are distant, when billions of light years soften the violence of expansion. What you cannot easily grasp is what it means to live inside a universe ruled by dark energy. So imagine you wake in the far future, in a world not centuries but billions of years from now. The Earth as you know it is gone, swallowed long ago by the swelling sun. But imagine a descendant species, whether human or something that has followed humans, surviving elsewhere. Perhaps on a planet orbiting a dim red star, perhaps in artificial habitats drifting in interstellar space. They live as you do beneath a night sky, but their sky is not your sky. Look upward, where once the Milky Way sprawled in luminous arcs, where once other galaxies speckled the horizon, now there is almost nothing. The stars of their galaxy remain still burning, though fewer now, but beyond, the sky is silent. Because by then, dark energy has stretched space so far, so fast, that all other galaxies have receded beyond visibility. Their light, redshifted into invisibility, never reaches this future observer. The cosmic horizon has closed. For them, the universe appears small, parochial, a single galaxy surrounded by darkness. They may build telescopes, they may dream of the cosmos, but they will find no evidence of expansion, no supernovae to reveal acceleration, no background radiation to whisper of the Big Bang. The universe will seem eternal, static, a single island floating in endless night. What you see so easily, galaxies rushing away, the afterglow of creation they will never see. Dark energy will have hidden it all. And here lies the irony. You, alive now, live in a privileged age. For billions of years, no mind could know the universe was expanding. It looked still eternal. For billions of years yet to come, no mind will be able to tell. Only now in this narrow window of cosmic history are the signs visible. Only now are the galaxies still close enough, the afterglow still detectable, the universe still young enough to reveal its story. This is the observational horizon imposed by dark energy. A horizon not just in space, but in time. Beyond it, knowledge collapses. And if you imagine yourself as that future being, you begin to feel the weight of loss. To live in a cosmos where the past is erased, where the evidence has faded, where you can no longer glimpse the grand story of origins. You would build theories, yes, you would speculate, but you would never guess the truth that the universe was once vast and luminous, filled with galaxies born in a fiery beginning. Perhaps this is the most haunting consequence of dark energy, not just the fate it promises, but the knowledge it denies. But let us linger in that future a little longer. Imagine 1 trillion years from now, stars burn slower, dimmer, the galaxy itself begins to thin, its stars scattered by gravitational encounters, its gas exhausted. Dark energy does not touch the galaxy directly, its bonds are stronger than the acceleration, but around the edges isolation grows. The night is not only empty of galaxies, it is empty of possibility. And then stretch even further, 10 trillion years, 100 trillion, the galaxy's stars have mostly burned out. What remains are red dwarfs, long-lived embers glowing faintly. Their dim light falls across planets frozen and lifeless. Nations, if any still exist, huddle around artificial suns or in habitats powered by exotic energy sources. Look outward again. The night sky is almost blank. No galaxies, no clusters, no cosmic web, only the slow expansion of void. The evidence of dark energy is not visible anymore, but it rules nonetheless, having erased the universe's memory. And yet in that emptiness there is a strange intimacy. For those who endure, the universe is no longer vast in appearance, but small. The sky is quiet, stripped of distraction. The cosmos has folded in on itself, leaving only the local, the near, the intimate bonds of whatever life still clings to existence. Dark energy does not only expand space, it contracts meaning, narrows horizons, isolates, and perhaps in that isolation there is both terror and solace. Now imagine even further, quadrillions of years, stars gone, black holes dominate, swallowing what remains. Slowly, imperceptibly, they too evaporate, bleeding energy into the void. The universe grows darker still. At last, only the vacuum remains. No galaxies, no stars, no black holes, only dark energy pressing outward forever, until even the concept of change loses its meaning. And here you return to yourself, sitting in the present, breathing in a room filled with air and silence, because all of that is far away and yet somehow already written. This thought experiment is not meant to frighten, though its scale may unsettle. It is meant to remind you of where you stand. You are alive at the rarest moment, the thin, luminous slice of cosmic time when the stars burn bright, when galaxies are visible, when the universe still whispers its story. You are alive at the moment when dark energy has revealed itself but not yet erased the evidence of its presence. You are, in a way, privileged witnesses. The cosmos has existed for billions of years without minds to measure it. It will exist for trillions more without minds able to remember it. But right now, right here, you see it. And when you let that thought sink in, it changes the way you feel about your own life. Because your lifetime, brief as it is, coincides with the only age when beings like you can ask these questions and find answers written in the sky. You are here not just to live, but to witness. That is the paradox of dark energy. It isolates the future, erases the past, and yet in the present it illuminates. It makes this moment matter more, not less. And as you imagine those future skies, blank and silent, you realize that wonder itself is temporary. The stars you see, the galaxies you measure, the light you trace, all are fleeting gifts, visible only now. To be alive in this window is to be alive at the edge of cosmic revelation. You close your eyes and imagine it, a night sky without galaxies, without evidence, without memory. And then you open them and you see your own sky, still filled with stars, still alive with light. A dark energy may dominate the universe, but it does not dominate this moment. And perhaps that is enough, to live not forever but meaningfully, to know not everything but enough, to hold the question even if you cannot hold the answer. You have followed dark energy into the far future, imagined skies stripped bare of galaxies, thought of civilizations huddling around fading stars, of black holes dissolving into mist. You have wandered through emptiness so vast it makes silence itself sound loud. And now slowly you return to yourself, sitting here breathing, your heart beating in a chest that belongs to a species just beginning to understand. And as you return, the question shifts. What does all this mean for you? For your short life, your fragile body, your small collection of days? The temptation is to feel dwarfed, to think, if galaxies themselves will vanish, what does my existence matter? If the cosmos erases even its own story, then how much more quickly will it erase mine? Compared to dark energy, I am nothing. But pause, stay with that thought, let it breathe, because in a strange way, the opposite is also true. Precisely because the universe is fleeting, because dark energy will erase, because all things pass, this moment becomes more precious, not less. To live is to be alive during a luminous interlude. To ask the question is to take part in the rarest act in cosmic history, the universe reflecting on itself. You are temporary, yes, but so is everything, even the galaxies. And still here you are aware. This is not the first time humanity has faced such unsettling vastness. Each time knowledge widened, so too did the sense of smallness. When Copernicus placed Earth not at the center but adrift around the sun, when Darwin placed humans not above creation but within the same lineage as every living thing, when astronomy revealed billions of galaxies beyond our own, each time the story humbled, each time it also expanded meaning. Because humility does not erase significance, it reshapes it. Think of your own mortality. You already know you are finite, your body will fail, your breath will stop, your story will end. And yet you still find meaning in moments, in love, in the quiet of a morning. You do not require eternity to live fully, you require presence. So too with the universe. The fact that it will one day fade does not rob it of significance, it deepens it. It says, pay attention now while the stars are still burning, while galaxies still share their light, while questions are still visible in the sky. Dark energy, strange as it is, does not only stretch space, it stretches perspective. It teaches you to see your life not as trivial, but as precious precisely because it is rare. You are alive during the age when the cosmos is most alive, when the night sky still carries memory. And here lies a quiet comfort. Meaning does not require permanence. Meaning requires awareness. You can feel this truth not only in cosmic reflection but in your own days. Think of a conversation that mattered though it lasted only an hour. Think of a song that moved you though it lasted only minutes. Think of a look from someone you loved, brief as it was, but carried with you for years. These things matter not because they endure forever, but because they happened, because you were there to receive them. Your life too is such a moment, brief, luminous, fragile, and yet infinite in its presence. And perhaps this is what dark energy asks of you, to let go of the hunger for permanence, to rest instead in the gift of the fleeting. To accept that even the stars do not last forever, and yet they shine, and in shining they are enough. Imagine again that future sky, blank of galaxies. Imagine beings who will never know what you know now, who will never see the richness of the cosmos you take for granted. And then open your eyes to your own sky filled with starlight. Suddenly you feel not small but privileged. You live at the edge of knowledge. You live in the brief moment when the universe reveals its story, before dark energy hides it again. You live in the narrow window of cosmic history when wonder is possible. And wonder itself is a kind of meaning. You begin to see how this changes the way you think about your own endings. Death is no longer an alien intrusion, it is the natural echo of cosmic truth. Everything ends. Galaxies, stars, atoms, verses. Why should you be different? But the ending does not negate the story. It completes it. It frames it. In that sense, to know of dark energy is to learn how to die. Not with despair, but with recognition. Not as a contradiction to life, but as part of the same rhythm. Your life is a galaxy in miniature, bright, brief, destined to fade. And that is precisely why it shines. And notice, too, how this connects you to everything else. You share in the fate of stars, of galaxies, of the cosmos itself. Your mortality is not separate from the universe's mortality. It is another expression of the same truth. To be alive is to be temporary. To exist is to pass. But if you allow it, that knowledge can bring intimacy, not fear. You are not alone in ending. You end as the universe ends, you fade as the stars fade. You are part of the same unfolding, the same rhythm, the same cosmic breath. And perhaps in that recognition you find a gentler way of being. You stop demanding permanence. You stop clinging to forever. You let yourself rest in what is, in the moment before you, in the breath you are taking now. Because in the end, dark energy teaches not only about galaxies, it teaches about presence. It teaches that nothing lasts and therefore everything matters. So sit with that for a moment. Breathe. Feel your chest rise and fall. Look at the sky in your memory filled with stars. Let yourself marvel at the fact that you exist, that you are here, that you can think these thoughts, even if only for a while. Dark energy may rule the universe, but it cannot erase this. The fact that you lived, that you wondered, that you felt the awe of being part of something greater than yourself. And when you drift towards sleep tonight, perhaps you will carry that with you. Not fear, not despair, but gratitude for the fleeting, for the luminous, for the rare privilege of being alive in a universe that itself is alive with mystery. The dark energy is vast, unknowable, relentless, but so are you. Not in scale, but in depth, not in permanence, but in awareness. And in that awareness, you meet the universe not as a speck lost in its immensity, but as a companion walking beside it. For however long you have, for however long it has, and in that shared brevity lies a strange eternity. You let the reflection settle, the intimate scale of mortality, the cosmic scale of endings. But if philosophy softens the heart, science sharpens the mind. And so, inevitably, you turn back to the question, what comes next? What will we do as a species faced with a mystery that dominates the universe but refuses to reveal itself? The answer lies not only in thought but in tools. Humanity has always reached for instruments to amplify its senses. Stones became hammers, glass became lenses, wires became circuits. Each invention was a way of extending human touch, human sight, human thought. With dark energy, the challenge is immense, but the instinct is the same. Build something to see what cannot be seen. Already the story is unfolding. You have walked among telescopes past Hubble, Planck, Sloan. Now you walk into the future, where new instruments are being prepared, each one aimed not at beauty but at clarity. Start with Euclid, the European Space Agency's mission. Picture it orbiting far beyond Earth's atmosphere, its mirrors catching light that has traveled for billions of years. Euclid's task is not to take pretty pictures. Its task is to measure with precision the shapes of galaxies, billions of them, across a third of the sky. From those shapes it will map gravitational lensing, the subtle bending of light by matter. Each distortion is a clue, each warped spiral a data point. And together they reveal how matter clusters, how gravity pulls, how expansion stretches. And within that tapestry, Euclid seeks the fingerprint of dark energy. Is expansion consistent with a constant force? Or is there drift, variation, subtle changes across time? Euclid will not answer everything, but it will tighten the noose around possibility. Then there is NASA's Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, named for the mother of Hubble. Scheduled for the coming decade, Roman will scan vast stretches of sky with a wide field of view, far larger than Hubble's narrow gaze. Its detectors will capture thousands of supernovae, refining the cosmic candle method to new precision. It will measure weak lensing, baryon acoustic oscillations, and other signatures of cosmic expansion. Where Hubble gave us images, Roman will give us statistics. Millions upon millions of galaxies catalogued, their distances and shapes whispering of acceleration. Together, Euclid and Roman are like two eyes, one European, one American, peering into the void. hoping to triangulate the shape of the unknown. But the ground is not silent either. On Earth, telescopes grow larger, cameras sharper. The Vera Rubin Observatory in Chile, with its enormous digital camera, 3.2 gigapixels, will scan the entire visible sky every few nights. Imagine a time-lapse of the universe itself, billions of galaxies flickering across time, supernovae exploding like sparks in the dark, asteroids drifting across frames. From this relentless monitoring, Rubin will build the most detailed map of the dynamic sky ever made. And in that map, acceleration will leave its imprint. Then there is the Dark Energy Spectroscopic Instrument, DESI, already scanning millions of galaxies, measuring their redshifts with robotic precision. Its purpose: to chart the three-dimensional structure of the universe with detail never before achieved. Like sonar mapping an ocean floor, DESI maps the cosmic web, measuring how far galaxies have drifted apart under the push of dark energy. Other projects like the Simons Observatory, the South Pole Telescope, CMBS-4, turn their ears back to the cosmic microwave background, listening for faint polarization patterns, for whispers in the oldest light that might reveal new physics. Each experiment sharpens the measurement, not because one alone can solve the puzzle, but because together they corner it, like hunters circling an invisible prey. And beyond instruments, there are new strategies. Some scientists study standard sirens, gravitational waves from colliding neutron stars. These ripples in spacetime, detected by LIGO and Virgo, carry within them a measure of distance independent of light. If you compare the wave with an optical flash, you can measure how far it traveled and how much the universe expanded along the way. It is a new ruler, a new candle, a new way of probing dark energy without relying only on supernovae. Others look to the 21-centimeter hydrogen line, the faint radio signal emitted by neutral hydrogen. By mapping this signal across cosmic history, scientists hope to trace the distribution of matter, expansion, and clustering. Huge arrays of radio dishes, like the square-kilometer array under construction, may one day tune into this cosmic whisper, hearing the universe's story across billions of years. Each of these instruments, each of these methods is a fragment. None promises revelation, but together they form a mosaic, each tile another constraint, another narrowing of possibility. And through it all a deeper truth emerges. Solving dark energy may not mean discovering a thing. It may mean discovering what we are wrong about. Perhaps our assumptions about gravity, about space, about time itself are incomplete. Each new telescope is not only a search for data, it is a test of our own hubris, a way of asking whether the framework we trust can still hold. It is humbling to realize that some of the most advanced instruments ever built by humans, billion-dollar satellites, mirrors polished to atomic precision, reactors cooled to near absolute zero, are not aimed at the stars themselves, but at the emptiness between them. That is what dark energy demands, to measure not the bright but the invisible, to stare at the silence between galaxies and find there the loudest secret of all. And yet, as powerful as these instruments are, even they have limits. The error bars will shrink, yes. The parameters will tighten. We may learn whether dark energy is constant or dynamic, whether it fits Einstein's equations or demands new ones. But perhaps we will never hold it in our hands, never build a detector that clicks when dark energy passes through. Perhaps it is not a particle, not a field, not a substance at all, but something stranger, something that only reveals itself on the scale of the entire universe. If so, then science itself faces a challenge. How do you study something that cannot be reproduced in a lab, something that only exists as a property of the cosmos as a whole? How do you experiment with infinity? The answer for now is patience. Instruments, missions, surveys, the slow accumulation of evidence, the careful pruning of possibility, the humility to admit what you do not know, and the audacity to keep asking anyway. And here, perhaps, is the human lesson again. That progress is not about sudden revelation, but about steady persistence. That mystery is not an obstacle, but a guide. That even if you never solve dark energy, the pursuit itself reshapes you, teaching you to live with uncertainty, to value questions, to see meaning not in closure but in curiosity. You are alive in an age when these instruments are being built, when these missions are being launched, when these data are being gathered. You are alive in an age when the cosmos is not silent, but whispering louder than ever before. Dark energy may never reveal itself neatly, but in chasing it, we reveal ourselves. You've walked through the instruments, the telescopes, the satellites that will measure dark energy with greater and greater precision. You've seen how scientists circle the unknown with numbers, how they try to corral the ungraspable. But the question lingers, what about us? What does it mean not just to know of dark energy, but to live in a universe shaped by it? Because if the universe is accelerating, if the stars themselves will one day slip beyond our horizon, then humanity, or whatever follows humanity, must face choices. Choices about how to live, how to expand, how to find meaning in a cosmos that is drifting away from itself. Imagine first the near future. A few centuries from now, humanity has spread beyond Earth, building outposts on Mars, moons, asteroids. Spacecraft travel between worlds not easily but regularly. Science has advanced, technology has deepened, but the sky is still familiar. The galaxies are still there, the stars still burn. Dark energy is still only a scientific mystery, something studied by physicists but rarely felt by ordinary lives. Then stretch further, tens of thousands of years. Humanity or its descendants has seeded itself across the Milky Way, perhaps through slow ships, perhaps through self-replicating machines, perhaps through technologies still unimaginable. The galaxy is no longer just stars, it is alive with minds, with civilizations, with stories. But even then, dark energy waits. The expansion is patient, invisible on human timescales, relentless on cosmic ones. Now leap millions of years. Civilizations spread further across the local group of galaxies. The Milky Way, Andromeda, their satellites merged together in a sprawling supergalaxy. By then, the acceleration has already begun to matter. Other galaxies, once visible in the night sky, are receding, fading, slipping away. The universe beyond the local group grows thinner, dimmer. And civilizations must face a choice. Do they let the galaxies go, content to remain in their island universe? Or do they reach outward, building technologies to chase the fleeing stars, to anchor themselves to matter before it disappears beyond reach? Some imagine star harvesting machines, Dyson spheres built not just to capture energy but to store it, to hoard it against the future when starlight will grow scarce. Others imagine vast propulsion engines, moving stars themselves, pulling them inward, clustering them together before dark energy pulls them apart. These ideas sound like science fiction, but they are rooted in real questions. How do you live in a universe that grows more empty with time? How do you build permanence in a cosmos that accelerates toward impermanence? And beyond technology lies philosophy, because even if survival is possible, the horizon will still shrink. No matter how advanced a civilization becomes, no matter how far it spreads, there will always come a time when other galaxies are lost to sight, their light stretched into nothingness. The cosmos itself will appear smaller, lonelier. What will that do to minds, to cultures? Perhaps it will foster a deeper sense of home, a turn inward, Civilizations may learn to value their local stars, their local galaxy, knowing it is all they will ever have. Perhaps meaning will become more intimate, less expansive, less about infinity and more about presence. Or perhaps it will drive desperation, an endless hunger to resist entropy, to fight the drift of space. Civilizations may build machines not only to survive, but to rebel against the cosmic order, to rage against the dying of the stars. And then there is the stranger possibility that civilizations may learn to manipulate dark energy itself. It sounds impossible, almost absurd. How can you harness something that permeates all of space, that cannot be touched or seen? And yet technology often begins as absurdity. Electricity once seemed like bottled lightning, unthinkable to use. Nuclear energy was unimaginable before the atom was split. Quantum computers sounded like magic until they were built in labs. If dark energy is a field, perhaps it can be shaped. If it is a property of vacuum, perhaps it can be tuned. If it is tied to dimensions beyond our own, perhaps it can be accessed. What would it mean for a civilization not only to endure dark energy, but to wield it? The thought sends a shiver through you, because to control dark energy would be to control the fate of the cosmos itself, to slow expansion, to accelerate it, to reshape horizons, to alter destiny. Would they use it to preserve galaxies, keeping the night sky luminous? Would they use it to escape, to build pathways into other universes, other dimensions? Or would they use it destructively, pulling apart the fabric of reality itself? You cannot know, you can only wonder. But perhaps the deeper truth is that dark energy does not only shape the physical universe, it shapes the way you think about your place in it. It forces you to ask, what does it mean to exist in a cosmos that resists permanence? What kind of stories will future beings tell when the galaxies are gone, when the evidence of the Big Bang is erased, when the universe has become a silent, lonely place? Perhaps they will tell myths of an earlier age when the sky was filled with light. Perhaps they will imagine a past where galaxies flourished, where stars burned more brightly, where the cosmos seemed alive with connection. And in a way they will be right. That is the age you live in now. And perhaps you too are already telling myths. Dark energy, after all, is a name more than an explanation. It is a placeholder for ignorance, a shadow cast by equations we do not fully understand. To speak of it is to admit that you live in an unfinished story, one where the next chapters are unwritten. And that maybe is the greatest gift dark energy gives, the reminder that you are not at the end of knowledge, that the universe is not solved, not closed, not finished. That mystery is alive, and you are alive to witness it. You breathe slowly, letting that recognition settle. You are small, yes, temporary, yes, but you are also part of something vast, something accelerating, something unfinished. And in that unfinishedness, you find both humility and freedom. Because if even the universe itself is incomplete, then so are you. And perhaps that is not failure. Perhaps that is simply what it means to exist. So you close your eyes, let the thought expand. Dark energy carries galaxies away, erases the sky, reshapes destiny. But here in this moment it carries you too, not outward but inward, into reflection, into wonder, into the strange, fragile privilege of being alive in a universe that is still luminous. And tomorrow, when you wake, the galaxies will still be there. The night sky will still be filled with stars. You will still live in the narrow age when the universe reveals itself. For now, and that for now is enough. You have followed dark energy across futures and technologies, imagined civilizations grappling with horizons that shrink even as their ambitions grow. But still, the question gnaws, what is this thing really? Not what it does that you know. It accelerates, it stretches, it pushes. But what is it? Here physics enters its most daring territory. Because sometimes when you cannot answer a question directly, you must ask whether the question itself is too small. Maybe dark energy isn't just another force, another particle, another field. Maybe it is a clue, a shadow of something deeper, something that whispers about the very foundations of reality. One such whisper comes from the idea that space-time itself is not fundamental. For over a century, we have treated space and time as the fabric of reality, the stage on which the cosmos unfolds. But in some theories, space and time are emergent, like waves on the surface of the ocean. They are not the water itself, but patterns that arise from something deeper. If this is true, then dark energy might not be an added ingredient, but a property of the deeper medium out of which space-time emerges. Think of a hologram. The three-dimensional image you see is not real in itself. It is encoded in a flat, two-dimensional surface. The depth is an illusion, a projection. Some physicists wonder, what if our universe is like that? A hologram projected from a boundary beyond our perception. If so, then dark energy could be nothing more than the projection of rules written at that boundary. In this holographic vision, the accelerated expansion is not an active push. It is simply the way the projection unfolds. Like a movie reel unspooling, not because the characters choose to move, but because the film itself is written that way. But even stranger is the idea that information itself is fundamental, that the universe is, at its core, not made of matter or energy, but of bits, quanta of information, time, matter, forces, all emergent from the way information is arranged, processed, exchanged. If so, then dark energy might be a property not of physics, but of computation, an error term in the cosmic code, a residue of the way the universe processes itself, expansion not as a force, but as a side effect of information spreading, distributing, balancing. These are not answers but provocations. They remind you that what you call mystery may simply be your own insistence on asking the wrong kind of question. And then there is quantum mechanics, always waiting in the wings. The vacuum in quantum field theory is never empty. It seethes with fluctuations, with particles that flicker in and out of existence. The vacuum energy is real, but calculations predict it should be catastrophically huge, not the tiny trickle we observe as dark energy. This mismatch between theory and observation, between the frothing quantum vacuum and the delicate acceleration of galaxies, has been called the worst prediction in physics, oft not by a factor of 10 or 1,000, but by a number so vast it barely fits in human thought, 10^120. And yet some suspect the mismatch itself is the clue. Perhaps dark energy is not the failure of quantum theory, but its signal. Perhaps it is the hint that the way we combine quantum mechanics and relativity is incomplete, that somewhere in the overlap lies a deeper theory. In that sense, dark energy might be the fingerprint of quantum gravity, the long-sought unification of the very small and the very large. It is as though the universe is telling us, here in this tension, in this mismatch, is where you should look. And then, inevitably, the speculation grows stranger still, because once you admit that dark energy is woven into the vacuum, that it permeates all of space, that it shapes not just galaxies but the structure of reality itself, you cannot help but wonder what else it might touch. Does it interact, even subtly, with life, with mind, with consciousness? Most scientists will tell you no, that dark energy is too faint, too diffuse, too universal to matter at the scale of neurons and synapses. But others allow themselves to wonder. If the vacuum itself is active, if the fabric of space is not neutral but alive with tension, then perhaps mind too is woven into that fabric. Perhaps consciousness is not something that arises within space and time, but something that arises with them. This is not to say that dark energy explains thought or dream or self, but it is to say that the mystery of dark energy and the mystery of mind may not be separate mysteries. They may be two edges of the same question. What does it mean for something to exist? And here you notice a quiet shift in yourself. When you first heard the phrase dark energy, it felt like a scientific puzzle, a technical term. Now, after following it across futures, across myths, across theories, it begins to feel like something else. A koan, a riddle not meant to be solved, but to be lived with. You are not meant to hold it in your hand like a stone. You are meant to let it hover in your mind like a horizon. Because what is dark energy, if not the universe reminding you that the surface is not the whole, that emptiness is not empty, that what you take for granted as the background is, in fact, the story. And maybe this is why the idea unsettles you so deeply, because it asks you to question not only your physics, but your intuitions, not only your equations, but your sense of reality itself. You thought space was passive, it is not. You thought emptiness was absence, it is not. You thought the universe was permanent, it is not. And in the cracks of those broken intuitions, something vast slips through. Dark energy, then, is not just a mystery of cosmology. It is a mirror. It reflects back to you the limits of your perception, the fragility of your assumptions, the incompleteness of your maps. It reminds you that you are not at the center of knowledge. You are at its edge. And maybe that is where you belong, at the edge, asking. So you let the thought linger. What if space is not fundamental but emergent? What if acceleration is not a force but a reflection of hidden dimensions? What if the vacuum is not silence but song? What if the story of dark energy is the story of reality itself, still waiting to be told? You do not know, you may never know, but you can feel the vastness in the asking. And as you drift towards sleep, that asking is enough. You've let your imagination wander through equations and dimensions, through holograms and emergent space, through the possibility that reality itself is more shadow than substance. But the truth is, you do not live on chalkboards or inside particle accelerators. You live here in your own body, in the unfolding of your own days. So the question becomes, what does dark energy mean here? Not as a scientific puzzle, not as a cosmological horizon, but as something you carry quietly in the way you live, in the way you think about your time, your choices, your relationships. Begin with the simplest shift. Dark energy tells you that everything changes. Nothing is fixed, not galaxies, not stars, not even the fabric of space itself. Expansion is not slowing, it is accelerating. The universe is not settling into permanence, it is rushing toward impermanence. And if that is true of the cosmos, then perhaps it is also true of your life. Perhaps the change you fear, loss, endings, time slipping away, is not an exception but the very texture of existence. Perhaps you do not need to resist it, but to recognize it, to live inside it. You feel this in small ways, in the way children grow faster than you can measure, in the way seasons tilt one into the next, in the way relationships evolve, sometimes deepening, sometimes fading. You cannot freeze these things, you cannot preserve them untouched, but you can notice them, honor them, live with them as they shift. Dark energy becomes a metaphor here. Expansion is not something you control. It happens. The question is not whether it will happen, but how you will respond. Will you fight against the tide, or will you learn to float with it? And yet, floating does not mean apathy. It means presence. It means letting yourself be where you are, not clinging to what has already passed or what has not yet come. Think of your relationships. You know they are impermanent. The people you love will change. They will age, they will move, they will one day die. You too will change and age and die. But does that make the love less, or does it make it more? If you believed everything lasted forever, perhaps you would take it for granted. But because you know it will end, you cherish it. The briefness is what makes it shine. So too with the stars. They blaze only for a while and then they fade. But while they burn, they light the cosmos. A dark energy reminds you, it is the fleeting that glows brightest. And if you let that truth sink in, it changes the way you live your days. It reminds you to be gentle with yourself, to not demand permanence from what was never meant to last. It reminds you to be present with the people you love, to not postpone joy until tomorrow, to not waste the luminous moment you have now. This is not easy. It goes against your instincts. You want stability, you want certainty, you want to believe that what you have will always remain. And yet the universe itself shows you otherwise. Even galaxies do not keep what they have. Even the vacuum is restless. So perhaps there is a kind of wisdom in aligning yourself with the universe instead of resisting it. To say, yes, I too am temporary. Yes, I too am changing. Yes, I too will end. And still I will live. In this light, dark energy becomes not just a cosmological force, but a kind of teacher. It shows you that expansion is the way of things, that endings are woven into beginnings, that permanence is an illusion. And if you let it, this knowledge does not diminish you, it frees you. Think of the way you sometimes cling to regrets, wishing the past had been different. But in a universe where everything expands, where time itself is always moving forward, regrets are futile. You cannot go back. You can only carry forward. Think of the way you sometimes fear the future, worrying about what will come, about what will end. But in a universe where even galaxies are carried outward by forces beyond their control, perhaps the wisest thing is not to resist the current, but to navigate it with grace. This does not mean passivity. It means agency of a different kind. Not the agency to stop time, but the agency to choose how you meet it. You can meet it with fear or with wonder, with bitterness or with gratitude, with clinging or with openness. Dark energy does not give you the power to change the universe, but it gives you the perspective to change yourself. And this shift is not abstract, it touches the smallest details of your life. The way you savor a meal knowing it will be gone soon. The way you notice a sunset knowing it will last only minutes. The way you listen to someone you love knowing that every conversation is finite. These things matter more, not less, because they do not last. And perhaps this is the most human response to a universe of impermanence. Not despair, not denial, but tenderness. To live tenderly with what is fleeting. To hold lightly what you cannot keep. To love not because it endures, but because it does not. In this sense, dark energy is not just about galaxies. It is about you. It is about the way you walk through your days, the way you let yourself feel awe, the way you let yourself soften into presence. And here you find a strange reconciliation. The same universe that will erase everything is the same universe that gives you this moment, this chance to exist, this chance to wonder. It takes away, yes, but only after giving first. So you breathe and you realize dark energy is not against you, it is not your enemy. It is simply the way things are. And the way things are is not permanent, but it is real and it is enough. And maybe, just maybe, this is the secret you've been circling all along. The point was never to explain dark energy fully. The point was to live in its presence, to let it teach you how to live in a world that changes, a world that ends, a world that shines precisely because it is fleeting. You are not separate from the cosmos, you are part of it. And so the lesson of dark energy is also your lesson, to expand, to let go, to live while you can. And when you lie down tonight, when you let yourself drift towards sleep, you carry that lesson with you, not as fear, not as despair, but as a quiet invitation. Be here, be alive, be luminous for now. You have felt dark energy as a scientific puzzle, as a cosmic force, as a mirror of your own impermanence. But there is another layer still, one often overlooked in the equations story. Because human beings, and perhaps any beings who think and feel, do not live by data alone. They live by the stories they tell about the world around them. And dark energy, strange as it is, will seep into those stories, shaping myth and meaning in ways you can only begin to imagine. Already it has. Even now, though the term dark energy is young, the phrase itself carries weight. Dark, a word that evokes mystery, fear, or hiddenness. Energy, a word that suggests movement, vitality, power. Together they sound less like a scientific placeholder and more like a line of poetry. Scientists chose the term with caution, but language has a way of escaping caution. To the public, to culture, to art, dark energy is not just a constant in an equation. It is a metaphor, a symbol. And symbols live longer than numbers. Imagine, centuries from now, poets speaking of dark energy as the force of separation, the cosmic loneliness written into the stars. Imagine lovers whispering of it as the distance that grows between two bodies even as they reach for each other. Imagine painters splashing canvases with swirls of color against deep black, trying to capture the feeling of acceleration, of things rushing away faster than you can hold them. It will enter religion too, inevitably. Some will see in dark energy the hand of a creator, a divine breath expanding the cosmos. Others will see it as a force of dissolution, a reminder that nothing but the eternal lasts. Still others will reinterpret it as a parable, a cosmic version of the human truth that everything changes, that attachment is fragile, that letting go is the way of things. And what of music? Imagine symphonies written not to resolve but to accelerate, crescendos that never release, melodies stretched until they dissolve into silence. Imagine songs about the universe expanding, about love across impossible distances, about the sorrow of galaxies drifting apart. Our stories will change as horizons change. Think again of the far future, trillions of years from now, when galaxies beyond the local group have disappeared from view. Future beings, intelligent and curious, will look at their skies and see only a single galaxy, merged, immense but isolated. To them, the universe will appear small. They will have no direct evidence of expansion, no cosmic background radiation to guide them. And so they will make stories. Perhaps they will tell of a time when the universe was fuller, when stars stretched endlessly, when countless galaxies danced across the void. They will weave myths of an age of connection, an age when light itself could cross the gulf. They will sing of loss, of separation, of the cosmic forgetting that has erased the evidence. Or perhaps they will do what humans have always done. They will reimagine the universe as eternal, static, unchanging. They will believe themselves to be at the center. They will believe their galaxy to be all there is. And for them, dark energy will not be a scientific fact but an ancient legend, a faint memory of ancestors who once glimpsed a broader truth. In this way, science itself becomes myth. Our discoveries are not permanent, they are stories told in the narrow window when they are visible. When the window closes, the stories become memory, then metaphor, then legend. But you, alive now, are in that luminous window. You hold in your mind a story that future beings may never imagine, that the universe is vast, filled with billions of galaxies, and that it is accelerating into emptiness. You carry not only knowledge but myth in the making. And isn't that what humans have always done? Look at the sky, see a mystery, and tell a story about it. The constellations are stories. The zodiac is a story. The heavens themselves were once gods, then spheres, then equations. Each generation makes its own meaning. Dark energy is simply the next chapter. And perhaps this is why it matters. Not because you will ever touch it or measure it in your own hands, but because it reminds you that the universe is not silent. It is a storyteller. Its stories are written in light and distance, in ripples and acceleration. And you, fragile though you are, can read them. So what story will you make of dark energy? Perhaps you will tell it as a story of loss, the great unraveling, the drift towards silence. Perhaps you will tell it as a story of wonder, the revelation that emptiness itself is alive. Perhaps you will tell it as a story of humility, the reminder that even in an age of precision, most of reality remains unknowable. Or perhaps you will tell it as a story of connection, because though dark energy drives galaxies apart, it also binds you to the moment when you can see them, when you can ask the question, when you can wonder. It binds you to every other being who looks at the night sky and feels awe. It binds you to ancestors who told stories of gods and spheres, to descendants who may tell stories of fading stars. It binds you paradoxically by separation. Dark energy separates galaxies, but it connects storytellers. And in that sense, the true legacy of dark energy may not be scientific at all. It may be cultural. It may be the art, the poetry, the myths it inspires. It may be the way it teaches humans to live with mystery, to weave meaning from silence, to face impermanence not with fear but with creativity. And perhaps this is the point. Science will continue, telescopes will launch, equations will be written. But even if the data grows sharper, the mystery will remain. Dark energy will never be just a number, it will always be a story. And as you sit here listening, drifting towards sleep, you realize that you are part of that story too. Not as a physicist, perhaps not as a discoverer, but as a listener, as a witness, as someone who lets the mystery enter their mind and shape the way they see the world. Dark energy accelerates galaxies away, but within you it accelerates imagination. It stretches your sense of meaning, your capacity for awe, your willingness to live in questions. And maybe that is the greatest story of all, that in a universe where even space itself is restless, you too are restless, not in despair but in wonder. You have circled dark energy from many angles, scientific, philosophical, mythical. But there is a detail that still hums in the background, a detail too strange to ignore. Dark energy does not stand alone in mystery. It has a companion, dark matter, and together they dominate the cosmos. Pause here, let the numbers settle in your mind. Everything you have ever seen, every star, every planet, every galaxy, every atom in your body makes up less than 5% of the universe. 5%. The other 95 is divided between two shadows, roughly 25% dark matter, 70% dark energy. The visible cosmos is not the main act. It is a fringe, a luminous trace on the surface of a darkness you cannot touch. And that realization is staggering. You live your whole life thinking of matter and light as reality. But the truth is reversed. Reality is mostly the unknown. Begin with dark matter. Unlike dark energy, it does not push the universe outward, it pulls. It acts like gravity, like an invisible scaffolding holding galaxies together. Without it, galaxies would fly apart, their stars scattered like sparks in a storm. Without it, cosmic structure would not exist. Astronomers first suspected its presence in the 1930s when Fritz Zwicky measured galaxies orbiting in clusters. They moved too fast, so fast they should have escaped into space. Something unseen was binding them, some invisible glue. Decades later, Vera Rubin traced the rotation curves of galaxies and found the same pattern. Stars at the edges orbited just as quickly as stars near the center. That should have been impossible, and yet it was real. Dark matter is not lightless stars, not black holes, not dust. It does not shine, does not absorb, does not scatter. It passes through matter without interaction except through gravity. It is everywhere, even here, passing through your body in this moment, billions of particles streaming silently, unnoticed. We still do not know what it is. WIMPs, axions, sterile neutrinos, modifications of gravity itself, every possibility is on the table. Particle detectors are buried deep underground, shielded from cosmic rays, waiting for the faintest trace. Spiders smash atoms together, hoping for a glimpse. So far, nothing definitive. And yet its presence is undeniable. Galaxies curve around it, clusters bend light through it. The cosmic web itself, the vast structure of filaments and voids, is shaped by its hand. Dark matter pulls, dark energy pushes. One binds, the other separates. One gathers galaxies into clusters, the other drives clusters apart. They are opposites, antagonists woven into the same story. It is tempting to think of them as yin and yang, a cosmic duality. The unseen matter giving shape to the universe, the unseen energy erasing it. The balance between cohesion and dissolution, the tug-of-war between gravity and expansion. And here you realize something profound. The universe you live in, the galaxies, the stars, the planets, your own body, exists only because of the tension between these two unknowns. If dark matter were absent, no galaxies would have formed, gas would not have clumped, stars would not have lit, the universe would be a thin, uniform mist. If dark energy were absent, expansion would have slowed, perhaps reversed, collapsing everything back into fire. But because both exist in their strange balance, galaxies formed and then spread, stars ignited and then drifted apart, life arose in the interlude. The very conditions that make your existence possible come from the dance of two mysteries that together compose 95% of reality. You are alive in a universe ruled not by what you see, but by what you cannot. And that changes the way you think about knowledge. For centuries, science was about illumination. Find the hidden forces, name them, measure them, bring them into light. Gravity was once unseen, then explained. Density was once a mystery, then harnessed. Atoms were once hypothetical, then measured. Always the pattern was the same, the dark became clear. But now, with dark energy and dark matter, the pattern shifts. The more you learn, the more you realize how little you know. Light reveals not answers but shadows. The closer you look, the stranger the universe becomes. And yet maybe this is not failure. Maybe it is the true shape of knowledge. Not a march toward completeness, but a spiral deeper into mystery. Not a conquest, but a conversation. Because here is the irony. Though you do not know what dark matter and dark energy are, you can describe precisely what they do. You can map their influence. You can measure their density. You can trace their fingerprints across the sky. You know them not by their presence, but by their effects. And isn't that how you know many things in your own life? Love, for instance, memory, meaning, you cannot weigh them, you cannot bottle them, you cannot hold them in your hands, but you know them by their effects, the way love alters your choices, the way memory shapes your identity, the way meaning bends the path of your life. So too with the cosmos. You do not know the substance of dark matter or dark energy, but you know the way they shape everything. You know them in absence, the way you know the wind by the swaying of trees. And perhaps this is the truest kind of knowing, not possession but relation. Not owning the answer but living in its presence. You let that thought soften you. You are made of atoms, yes, but you are held in place by dark matter carried outward by dark energy. Your body is 5% of reality, your existence framed by the 95% you cannot see. You are not separate from the mystery, you are woven into it. And maybe that is the point. That knowledge itself is not about removing mystery, but about deepening relationship with it. You know the universe more intimately now, not because you have solved it, but because you have seen how unsolved it remains. And so you breathe slowly, letting the numbers wash over you. 5% visible, 95% unknown. A universe shaped by shadows, alive with mystery. Dark matter binds, dark energy separates. Between them you live. And in that fragile balance, you find something not frightening but strangely tender. Because to live in such a universe is to live not in certainty but in wonder, not in possession but in awe, not in completion but in the open-endedness of a story still being written. And when you step outside tonight, if you look up at the stars, you will know this. The light you see is only a trace, a flicker, a surface. Behind it lies the vastness you cannot see, the forces you cannot name. And yet somehow you are part of it. Not separate, not small, but woven into the very fabric of mystery itself. You sit now with the numbers ringing in your head. 5% seen, 95% unseen. The cosmos, vast and luminous, but mostly unknowable. And the question creeps in, quiet, unsettling. What does it mean to live in a universe you cannot fully know? And for a long time you believed knowledge was a path toward closure, that the point of science, of thought, of searching was to finish the puzzle, find the missing piece, complete the picture, hold the truth. But dark energy refuses to let you do that. It stretches the puzzle out of reach. Each answer opens more questions. Each step forward reveals another horizon. And maybe that is not failure. Maybe that is the nature of existence itself. Think of your own life. You never know the whole story, even of yourself. You never fully explain your own choices, your own memories, your own heart. You live in partial knowledge. You guess, you reflect, you wonder. And yet you live, you love, you carry on. Why should the universe be different? Why should you demand of it a completeness you cannot even find in yourself? Perhaps dark energy is the cosmos whispering. Mystery is not something to be solved. It is something to be lived with. And here you feel a shift. The question is no longer what is dark energy. The question is, how do I live knowing I may never know? That is the existential challenge. To make peace with the fact that the universe is larger than your maps, that your mind will never hold it all, that some truths are not to be owned but to be walked beside. It is tempting to think of this as defeat, but maybe it is freedom. Because if mystery endures, then meaning is never closed. If mystery remains, then curiosity never dies. If mystery is permanent, then wonder itself is woven into the structure of reality. In this way, dark energy becomes more than a scientific riddle. It becomes an existential companion. It reminds you that to be alive is not to know everything, but to marvel anyway. Imagine for a moment the alternative. Imagine a universe fully explained, fully mapped, fully predictable. No shadows, no unknowns, a cosmos reduced to equations you can recite. Would that universe inspire you? Would it move you? Or would it feel hollow, mechanical, closed? You realize it is not certainty that gives life texture. It is uncertainty. It is not answers that give life meaning. It is question, and perhaps that is why mystery is the most enduring truth, because it is not a gap to be filled, but a horizon to walk toward. Dark energy, then, is not the enemy of knowledge. It is the guarantor of wonder. But let the thought stretch further. What does it mean for a species to live with this? What kind of culture emerges when the dominant truth is mystery? Perhaps it makes humility central. To know that the universe is 95% unknown is to know that arrogance is misplaced. No matter how advanced your technology, no matter how sharp your instruments, you will always stand at the edge of something larger. Perhaps it makes creativity essential. If the universe will never be fully mapped, then stories, art, and myth are not distractions, they are necessary. They are how you live with the unexplainable, how you weave coherence in the face of incompleteness. Perhaps it makes community sacred. To live in mystery alone is to feel small, fragile. But to live in mystery together is to feel wonder, to feel connection, to feel the strength of shared awe. In this way, dark energy may shape not only your science but your ethics, your culture, your way of being. It may remind you that life is not about mastering the universe, but about living in harmony with its unknowability. And then you begin to wonder, maybe this is not unique to humans. Maybe any being anywhere who looks at the sky and asks what lies beyond will face the same truth, that the universe is mostly hidden, that knowledge is always partial, that mystery is the most faithful companion. Imagine them on another planet under another sky. Their telescopes pointed outward, their equations scratched onto surfaces, their myths whispered around fires. They too would discover the expansion. They too would measure the faint background glow. They too would ask what drives it. And they too would run into the same wall, an energy they cannot touch, a force they cannot explain. Perhaps dark energy is the universal story, not just for us but for any intelligence anywhere. The story of asking, the story of not knowing, the story of living anyway. And if so, then you are connected not only to your ancestors and descendants, but to every mind that ever wanders beneath a sky, across galaxies, across ages, across horizons. The common truth is not knowledge but mystery. This changes the way you see yourself. You are not a failure because you do not know. You are not small because you cannot solve it. You are part of the very fabric of the question. You are the cosmos wondering about itself, and the wondering is enough. Dark energy teaches this, that the unknown is not an obstacle but a presence. Not an absence but a fullness you cannot yet name. It is the silence that gives music shape, the shadow that makes light visible, the horizon that keeps you walking. And maybe this is the deepest truth of all, that the universe is not something to be conquered, but something to be accompanied. That to live in mystery is not to be lost, but to be exactly where you belong. You let this realization soften you. You stop clinging for an answer. You stop demanding certainty. You let yourself rest in the unknowing, and in that rest you feel peace. Because to live in a universe filled with dark energy is to live in a universe filled with wonder. A universe that will always stretch beyond your grasp, always offer horizons you cannot reach, always remain larger than your maps. And isn't that what makes it beautiful? Not that it is solved, but that it is unsolvable. Not that it is finished, but that it is infinite in its unfolding. Not that it is known, but that it invites you to keep asking. So you breathe, you close your eyes, you let the mystery wash over you. You are 5% visible, 95% unseen, 100% alive. And that is enough. You have walked far in this story, through evidence and doubt, through science and speculation, through myth and meaning. You have seen dark energy not only as a force, but as a teacher, a metaphor, a mirror. And yet the journey is not done, because all along, beneath every calculation and reflection, one question has lingered. What does dark energy reveal? Not about itself, that remains hidden, but about existence, about what it means for anything to be. Start with the simplest truth. The universe is not static. It is not permanent, it is not a fixed stage. It is dynamic, restless, alive. Expansion is not slowing, it is accelerating. Nothing stays still. This truth alone overturns centuries of intuition. The ancients imagined the heavens as eternal, perfect, unchanging. Even Einstein at first forced his equations into stillness, uncomfortable with a cosmos that moved. But the universe is not still. It is always becoming, always unfolding, always stretching. And if that is true of galaxies, it is true of you. You too are not fixed. You too are always becoming, always unfolding, always stretching into what comes next. Dark energy is not only a cosmic principle. It is a reminder written across the sky that change is the essence of existence. But change has direction. Expansion does not loop back into stasis, it accelerates. The cosmos rushes outward into more and more emptiness. This too is a revelation because it says endings are not dramatic, they are not sudden collapse, they are drift, slow, patient, inevitable. The universe will not end with a bang. It will end with a quiet unraveling. And here you feel the existential weight. Because if the cosmos itself is destined to fade, then permanence is an illusion. Not just for you, not just for your species, but for stars, for galaxies, for the very fabric of reality. Dark energy reveals this. Everything ends. But do not mistake this for despair. Endings are not failures, they are the natural rhythm of existence. You know this already in your own life. A day ends, a season ends, a breath ends, and still life continues. The ending does not erase the meaning of what came before, it frames it, it gives it shape. So too with the cosmos. Its ending does not erase its beauty, it deepens it. It says, be alive now while the stars are burning, be awake now while the galaxies are still visible, be present now while the mystery is still speaking. The dark energy is not a cosmic enemy. It is a cosmic invitation, but the invitation is paradoxical because it asks you to live in two truths at once. On the one hand, you are small, an atom among stars, a flicker among eons, a being made of 5% in a universe ruled by the unseen. On the other hand, you are vast because you carry the universe within your awareness. You can imagine trillions of years even if you will not live them. You can hold billions of galaxies in your thought even if you will never travel to them. In this way, you are not outside the cosmos looking at it. You are the cosmos looking at itself. And that is perhaps the deepest revelation of all. Dark energy reminds you not only that the universe is mysterious, but that you are part of that mystery. You are not a spectator, you are a participant. You are woven into the same fabric that expands, that accelerates, that drifts into silence. The push of dark energy is not happening out there. It is happening here in the space between atoms, in the vacuum that surrounds you, in the very breath you take. You are inside the mystery, carried by it, shaped by it. And so to ask what is dark energy is also to ask, what am I? The answer is the same, unknown but real, hidden but present, mysterious but luminous in effect. This is the quiet climax, not the discovery of a particle, not the naming of a field, but the recognition that mystery itself is the foundation of existence, that you are alive not despite the unknown but because of it. Dark energy reveals that the universe is unfinished, that reality is open-ended, that you live not in a closed book but in a story still being written. And doesn't that shift everything? To know that certainty is not the point, that completion is not the goal, that life itself is not about holding the answer but about walking in the question. So you breathe, you let the paradox settle. You are small and you are vast. You are temporary and you are eternal in awareness. You are 5% visible and 95% unknown. You live in a universe where endings are inevitable, but where meaning is never erased. You live in a cosmos ruled by mystery, but alive with wonder. And you realize this is not something to solve, it is something to live. Dark energy, then, is not only a scientific puzzle, it is a practice, a way of being, a reminder to let go of the need for permanence, to embrace the fleeting, to marvel at the vast, to live tenderly with what you cannot control. And maybe when you close your eyes tonight, you will feel it not as threat but as companion, not as absence but as presence, not as dark but as luminous in its own quiet way. Because in the end, dark energy does not only reveal the fate of galaxies, it reveals the truth of existence itself, that to live is to expand, to change, to let go, to wonder. And that is enough. The story has carried you far. You have stood in deserts with ancient stargazers, stared through telescopes with modern astronomers, imagined the last days of the cosmos, and drifted into theories so strange they blur into myth. You have felt dark energy as equation and as metaphor, as threat and as teacher. And now, as the journey nears its close, you feel the weight of it all settling around you like a quiet night sky. But this is not the kind of story that ends with an answer. Dark energy will not step forward to introduce itself, will not whisper its true name. It remains what it has always been, an open horizon, a question too large for closure. So instead, let us end as we began, not with certainty, but with wonder. Look again at the night sky in your mind. The stars shimmer, scattered like diamonds. The Milky Way arcs across the darkness. Galaxies beyond galaxies stretch outward, billions of them, each one filled with its own suns, its own worlds, its own stories. It feels eternal, endless, permanent. And yet you know now it is not. The light you see is already fading. The galaxies are already slipping away. The universe is already rushing outward under the invisible hand of dark energy. And what you see is not the cosmos as it is the cosmos as it was. A snapshot, a fleeting glimpse, a luminous echo. And somehow this does not make it less beautiful, it makes it more. Because beauty has always lived in the fleeting, in the flower that blooms only for a day, in the sunset that burns for minutes before the dark, in the breath that fills you and then is gone. The universe is the same. Its beauty lies not in permanence, but in its impermanence. Not in what lasts forever, but in what shines while it lasts. You are part of that shining. Your awareness, brief as it is, belongs to the same unfolding. You are not separate from the stars, from the galaxies, from the expansion itself. You are woven into the same fabric, carried by the same currents, dissolved by the same ending. And perhaps this is the gift of dark energy, not answers, not closure, but perspective. The reminder that you are small, yes, but not insignificant, temporary, yes, but not meaningless. You are the cosmos reflecting on itself, even if only for a moment. So when you ask, what is dark energy? The truest response may not be a definition, but an invitation to wonder, an invitation to live with mystery, an invitation to let the unknown be not a burden, but a companion. Because the unknown is not empty, it is full, full of possibility, full of imagination, full of the very wonder that makes life luminous. And you feel it now, don't you? The way the question itself becomes soothing, the way not knowing becomes a kind of rest, the way your mind can soften into the vastness, your body sinking into stillness, your breath rising and falling like the tide. Dark energy continues its work, galaxies continue their flight, the universe continues its acceleration. And you, small as you are, drift with it, carried outward into the silence. But here is the quiet truth. You do not need to solve it. You only need to live inside it. To be here now in this fleeting age when the cosmos still burns bright, when the galaxies are still visible, when the mystery is still open. You are alive in the rarest of windows, the briefest of moments, the luminous interlude when the universe is still telling its story. One day the story will fade, the evidence will vanish, the stars will go out, but tonight the story is still here. Tonight the stars still shine, tonight the universe still whispers, and you are here to listen. So close your eyes, feel your breath soften, feel your body grow heavy, your thoughts loosen, your awareness expand. Imagine yourself floating outward, carried by the same invisible hand that carries galaxies. Imagine yourself dissolving into the vastness, not as loss but as release. You do not need to hold on. You do not need to understand. You only need to drift. And as you drift, remember this: mystery is not the opposite of knowledge. It is the foundation of it. Wonder is not what you feel when you run out of answers. It is what you feel when you realize answers were never the point. Dark energy does not close the book, it keeps it open. It stretches the story onward, outward, into infinity. And so we end not with resolution, but with invitation. The invitation to carry this wonder into your sleep, to let your dreams expand like galaxies, to let your mind stretch like space itself, to let yourself rest in the comfort of not knowing, in the beauty of impermanence, in the luminous silence of the accelerating cosmos. Dark energy remains, mystery remains, and you remain for now awake to both. Tomorrow you will rise again, you will live your finite days, you will love, you will laugh, you will wonder, you will grieve. You will live as fleetingly as the stars and as luminously too. And that is enough. So breathe, soften, drift, let the mystery hold you. The universe expands, the galaxies fade, the story continues. And you, small as you are, luminous as you are part of it, always part of it. Not solved, not ended, but open, always open.